to say anything interesting, though.
I hope you say something interesting. You always say something interesting when me and you meet up.
Did you know there are relatives of the giant redwoods in California in East Asia from when those continents were joined in the distant past?
I actually did not. I actually did not know that.
There's one interesting thing for today, and that's all you get.
That's all I get?
Everything else I say will be
very bland.
Dull.
Everything else you say will just be about...
There's moving van number 3.
Oh my gosh. Man, this place really is going downhill. Everybody's moving out.
Actually, it's going uphill. And they're raising the rent, and it's out of our budget, and probably these people too.
Fair enough.
But I think that's a strategy. This was a new complex, pretty much. It might have been there a year when we moved. Oh, what was that?
Something bumpy.
Yeah, it was something from the construction site. So they offer reasonable rent just to fill apartments, and then they start hiking it up every year. I'm a little worried about that happening at our new place. It's an old complex. Like, you can tell when you walk into our little townhouse, it feels like an older building. Like the hallways are really narrow for no reason. There's like walls making the rooms smaller where there don't really need to be walls. But a new management company has bought this older complex and they fixed it up, and it seems like a nice place. All the reviews on Google were kind of bad before like
It's fine, it'll be
I
fine.
thought that car was coming. Before like 2 years ago, and then all the reviews from the last year and a half have been really good, and the rent is really reasonable. But I'm worried that because now a nicer management company is taking care of it, that they're going to start like adding 100 onto the rent every year.
Someone's gonna come in and gentrify it. They were doing that when I was living on the south side. That's what they were doing on the south side. Then all the people didn't move out and crazy things kept happening. South side of Columbus.
Yes.
I told you we had that drive-by shooting because we were living next to drug dealers, right?
If you ever told me about that, I don't remember.
So we'd been living there. This new family comes in. They seem very nice. It's a big family. It's a lot of kids. We're like, okay, it's nice to have like kids next door to us, so our kids can play with their kids and all that. No, moment they like settle in, they're handing bags of stuff out to random cars that are parked on the street. We don't know who these people are that are coming up. It's different people every time. I sleep in the basement. I go downstairs in the basement. They're awake all night long. Their side of the basement, I can smell their side of the basement starting to smell like weed, and like 4 months into them being there, and like all of a sudden their house gets shot. Their side of the duplex has a drive-by shooting, and we're like, no, we're done with this.
Wow.
And so every other house in that neighborhood was like getting gentrified a lot. And gentrification has its own problems. There are a lot of issues with gentrification and making housing less affordable.
Yeah, it really sucks because there's companies that want to buy all the affordable housing and then like turn them into expensive rental properties and profit off of the low cost of the houses. And so they also have like laws in place to keep them from kicking the old residents out, or raising rent on the old residents if they acquire the property or whatever. So then you get all the sneaky stuff they do to get around the laws, try to like get old homeowners out and acquire their houses. I was reading an article about that the other day. So then you have this phenomenon where like 40% of the houses are sitting empty and nobody can afford them.
Yeah. I mean, that was happening so much out in Pickerington. When I was living in Pickerington, 2017, 2018, building all these houses. I had a friend sitting in one of the neighborhoods that they were just adding on to it. They paved just new roads through the back end of their neighborhood. And they built a bunch of houses, and every time I went over there, I'm like, has anybody moved in? They're like, maybe one person. But nobody's buying any of these houses. I like the older houses. So I like seeing older houses get fixed up but not renovated too much.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of history in there. Always like the haunted houses. Houses where you go into it and there's like, by the way, somebody died here in like 1940.
You'll hear footsteps at night, but it's not haunted, we promise. It's just like the house settling. You might hear some ghastly wails coming from the basement. It's the water heater. It's whatever.
Oh yeah, definitely not the previous residents who died here.
Definitely not.
Definitely not Susan Whoozy What's-It who died here in 1910 from something awful.
People dying of in 1910. I can't think of the disease. One people got because they didn't go outside enough. Anyway,
I don't know. What was going around early 1900s? That what did FDR have?
Yeah, that it would like deform people's spines and legs.
Oh
and things.
yeah.
It's one of the ones we get a vaccine for now.
Oh yeah.
Anyway, yeah, that thing. That's what old Susie What's-It died of.
She died of it, and now she's stuck there. She tells everybody who's into the house to get the vaccine, but then she starts making all the plates fly around the room, and just scares them off.
I think those like names from the 1910s and 1920s need to become popular again, because it would be adorable if people started naming their kids like Gretchen and
oh yeah, Franklin.
Linda's a little later though.
Yeah.
Its popularity. Well,
I want
Ernest.
I want PIs to become popular again. I want people to go out and do more PI work.
Oh yeah, and they gotta wear the long coats and
long
detective
coat.
hats and carry a comically big magnifying glass.
They got the fedora on late at night. They got the film noir narration voice going in their head.
And the lighting in any room just changes to like chiaroscuro anytime they walk in.
Oh yeah.
Narrator starts speaking.
I feel like there's a good opportunity for private detectives and private investigators to pop up again. Since 2020.
Yes.
Since there's been all this, at least attempted reallocation of like funds and things, skepticism of established investigative or policing forces.
I'm sure there are. They just don't prowl the alleys looking for clues in the dead of night. They're at their computer going typity typity type.
Yeah.
Like in the crime shows where for some reason they're not even using the mouse and they're just like, oh, let me hack into the criminal's database. Hack.
That's not real hacking. Real hacking requires a mouse.
They did that on NCIS, and it's kind of infamous for how goofy it was, because the one character's like, I'm trying to break through their firewall, but I don't think I have time. So then the other character comes and starts typing on the other side of the keyboard. So like all four of their hands are just typing, hack faster, guys! It's like, what are they even supposed to be doing? How would this work? The faster you type, the faster you hack. It doesn't matter what you're typing, just mash the keyboard.
The coordination between those two people would have to be absolutely insane.
Yes.
They have to know what words the other one's trying to type. what sequence of letters or numbers that they're trying to put in.
No, it doesn't matter. You just mash keys. That's how you hack. That's how it works.
There's some, I don't know, I don't think they're like hackers per se. I guess they're famous computer programmers for like Minecraft. There's this Minecraft server where people they'll go to the server admin, and it used to be like, they're like, plug in my whatever thing to fix a problem. He would go, yeah, sure. And he'd plug in their program, and all of a sudden they would get like backdoor access to the system that it was running on, the Minecraft server was running on, or whatever. But that's the extent of like real world knowledge of hacking. People do crazy things for not a lot.
Yes. It's interesting to me that viruses aren't really such a problem for the newer devices like iPhones and e-readers and things. You just never hear about people getting a virus on their phone and needing. I mean, maybe it happens, but I think encryption has just gotten so much better that it's harder for people to make a virus. Like, you would click a file on your phone and then a virus would just like take over the storage on your phone or whatever, the way that it used to happen with computers. If it happens, it's not something that happens to everybody's grandma 8 times a day the way it does with like desktop computers.
Yeah.
I've never gotten a phone virus.
I don't think I have. I think I got a virus on a tablet once. Like, somebody hacked into it somehow.
Yeah. So it can happen.
It can happen. It was this weird thing. I had like a little Samsung tablet at one point, and it was old. It was like 2 years old. I was still using it. It was not turning on all the time. Last time I turned it on, I like pushed the power button, I opened it up, and I had like some message of like, you've been hacked, and then I just turned the tablet off and never turned it back on.
Checkmate, hackers. You can't hack me if I don't turn my tablet on.
Yeah.
Congratulations, you have access to all of my old books on this tablet I'm not using anymore. Good job, hackers. It was definitely not a waste of your own time.
Yeah.
Reminds me of when somebody broke into my old car and stole my radio.
Call from Tammy King. Do you want to pick it up?
Oh. I'm going to pause this. I'm going to resume this now.
Distracted because I was confused what the GPS was doing for a second, but it's good.
It's all better now?
Yes, we were 13 minutes from the place.
Now. Okay. I forget what we were talking about.
Oh, yeah, we were talking about hackers and when they waste their own time, and it reminds me of when somebody broke into my old car to steal my old radio, and the Ford radios are particularly hard to like take out of the dashboard. You have to have these 2 special little pin tools, but anyway, so it takes some time to jimmy it out, and of course it takes the time to jimmy the door on the car, and I assume they like pop the window out and then use the tool to come down and hit the unlock button, which is particularly hard to hit in my old car. So it would have been a pain in the neck to break into this car, but the radio was like this cheap little, like, I don't know, $50 radio that didn't come with the car that, like, my dad and I put in when I bought it just so I'd have something. So I was like, man, they spent all that time to steal this cheap radio. Probably not going to get anywhere near what I paid for it.
Yeah. So whatever it takes to get in there. There's some.
It had like cool, flashy LED color changing lights on the front and stuff, so maybe it looked like a nicer radio than it was.
It might be they might have been onto something. Maybe they just like the radio.
Yeah.
Maybe they wanted the radio.
Probably their mother told them, you gotta work for the good things in your life, and they took that to mean you gotta steal a cheap radio and spend like 2 hours doing it.
Like 2 hours to get a radio is not that bad. It just sucks that it was stolen from you.
Yes, well, that did suck.
Poor guy on the side of the road with his ruined. I don't even know what that's called anymore. I used to know what that was called. The mobile homes. Well, it's just called a mobile home, probably.
Oh, yeah, like an RV type.
An RV, yeah. I was trying to remember the quote from National Lampoon Christmas Vacation. That's like, that's an RV, Clark.
I don't remember.
So you only see it around like one time a year.
Yes. I saw the last half of it on the TV in my hotel like 2 months ago. Because it was the most interesting thing playing on TV, but I didn't see that part, so it doesn't count.
It happens. They were playing National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation. What was 2 months ago? August?
Yeah, oh no, it was the National Lampoon Family Vacation where we're trying to go to Wally World.
Nah. The National Lampoon's Vacation movies are like modern classics that are kind of niche. Like everybody knows about it, but not enough. I feel like not enough people talk about them.
Right. Everybody knows about them, but most people watch them like once or twice.
Yeah. And like just never again. Sorry. You just mentioned you travel a lot. I'm doing this for people who might be listening to this podcast.
This is a podcast?
This is going to be a podcast.
Oh.
You didn't know when you sat down.
I didn't. You were just like...
I'm sorry.
It's cool if I record you, right? I'm like, okay.
I'm sorry. I do this a lot to people where I sit down and I just go.
Oh yeah, no, then I proceeded to just not question that any further. I mean, I don't care.
No, it is.
Like I said, I never say anything interesting, so...
You've said plenty of interesting things.
Okay.
We're gonna talk about something very interesting though, which is what you do. I don't know technical terms, but you're basically you do like maintenance on animatronic. I know animatronic dinosaurs. I don't know if you do any other animatronic.
Dinosaur wrangler / veterinarian.
Oh yeah.
Official job title. No, not really. It's but dinosaur field service technician and installer. So the biggest thing I ever put together was the Argentinosaurus in Germany. We have actually a couple of those, but I think the biggest one is in Germany, and it's still assembled. It's in the Leipzig Zoo.
Oh.
And it's like let me think. Oh geez, it's like 120 feet long, like 50 feet high, roughly. And it's life size. It represents like the real dinosaur, and that's all based on I think a few bones that my boss Don Lessem was kind of involved in, like the discovery or the unearthing of this. But they have a vertebra from it, and so they can look at like the proportions and the number of vertebrae and the size of them in smaller sauropods and kind of scale that up, so that even though they don't have like a complete nose to tail skeleton of this thing, they can estimate how large it was. And the vertebra is like enormous. It's like the height of you, just a single backbone. Well, maybe not you, but like a short person like me. It's more that height, but there's actually a cast of it in the storage in Mount Vernon.
That's
here. The way, like, we have some of the dinosaur robots and like the skeleton mounts and stuff in there. So if you ever happen to go there with us, I can show you the vertebrates.
that'd be amazing.
So yeah, anyway,
how cool is it to say you built something that's sitting in you said Germany?
It's in the Leipzig Zoo.
Leipzig Zoo.
In Leipzig in Germany.
Oh.
And it's a robot. So like the mouth moves and the tail wags and it makes noises, and it's really like it almost like puts a shiver down your spine if you stand like right in front of the fully assembled life-size statue and think like this was a real animal. There were animals this size like walking around on the earth. Because intellectually you can say, oh yeah, it was 100 feet long, it was so many feet high. Like I don't know about the height because they just based on how the vertebrae fit together, there's some debate over whether it really held its neck like tall like the brachiosaurs in Jurassic Park, or if it would have held its neck sort of out more, in which case it would be like longer lengthwise and shorter as far as the height of its head. So when you say like how tall was it, that kind of depends on how high its head would reach, and the flexibility of its neck and all that. So these proportions aren't exact, but still, it makes you feel so small to just stand like you go up to about the wrist of its front leg.
Oh dang!
And so it's pretty cool. They actually, I've been recorded on this subject once before because they wanted to film a little TV spot to advertise the dinosaur show. The Argentinosaurus wasn't the only one there. They also had some smaller stuff. That was the biggest one. They also had a Brachiosaurus. They had a T-Rex. Little velociraptors and popular dinos, and some ornithomimimuses, I think. And so they took some footage. They had like professional photographers who made it look really cool, like panning shots of the dinosaurs, like doing their little roars and squeaks and things. And so then they wanted to film me talking about the construction of them, but the photographer was like, "Oh, this would be really cool if we could film you like on the bucket lift, like the man lift, like up at the head of the 50-foot tall Argentinosaurus." And like have the head there and like film you describing it. And so we did this, and so we had two bucket lifts, both parked like right by the chest of the dinosaur kind of, and they were just barely tall enough to get up there. And then the wind was blowing really hard, and
technical nightmare.
Yeah, they had the big there's probably a name for it, but it's like the big fuzzy thing that like a sound recordist would put on the microphone to try to buffer the wind.
Yeah.
But it looks like a big dust mop thing, like on on the microphone.
A Swiffer.
So, I guess it cuts down the wind noise and stuff. And it was freezing cold. This was in like February.
Oh jeez.
And then so the photographer is in like a cherry picker bucket that's like swaying, and I'm in a bucket that's swaying, and they've got the boom mic stretched across the space between us to try to record me. So we were trying to make it look as casual as possible, but they're a lot like, with their arms like reaching out, and they made me record the dialogue like 6 times because the wind would blow or the camera would get jostled or something. But in the end, they made it look really cool. I can actually send you I had a link to the video. The link didn't work the last time I tried, so it might have been taken down, but I'll see if I can get a hold of that.
Yeah.
It's all in German except for my section that's got subtitles, and it's like 5 seconds of me saying, "Big dinosaurs in the zoo, come see them." Anyway. That was fun. There's a lot of less glamorous parts of the dinosaur construction and breakdown job that's just like working in the mud and the rain and the 100 degree heat or whatever. whatever.
Yeah.
No.
You could have been on an episode of Dirty Jobs. Back when that show was running.
Yeah, I mean,
Go build an animatronic dinosaur out in the rain.
yeah. Okay, Micro, you get on this bucket and we'll send you 50 feet in the air. Sew up the rips in the nose of this giant Argentinosaurus. I don't know, I mean, Micro is like...
He's a dude with a face.
He sure is a dude with a face. And kind of surprisingly, like, campaigns against labor reform and unions and stuff for a guy who's supposedly, like, so pro-working class. But anyway, this isn't about Micro. It's about...
Yeah. This is about awesome dinosaurs and things you work on.
Anyway, oh yeah, like, I don't know, I was thinking of something and I got distracted by
your Micro friend.
My Micro contempt just got in the way of my thoughts.
You feel the same about Micro, about how most people in Columbus feel about Guy Fieri.
I don't know much about Mike Fieri.
Mike Fieri. Guy Fieri.
Fieri.
He's got some issues.
What about Guy Rowe? We haven't talked about him.
Guy Rowe. I don't know a Guy Rowe.
I'm just randomly splicing their names together now because of my Mike Fieri thing. Wait. Continue strength. Sorry.
You're going all over the place here.
You know,
Guy Fieri. There was a petition to rename Columbus Flavortown for a little bit after Guy Fieri.
Nice.
And then somebody did some digging on Guy Fieri and went, man, this guy actually sucks.
No.
But and whenever they go on to a location and shoot with him, he like sticks his whole hand without any gloves into whatever food and just ruins a whole.
Oh.
Like they're like, this takes 3 days to cook this food, and he like sticks his hand into it like halfway through the cooking process, and they're like, we have to toss this out now. You've ruined so much money.
Yeah, I hate him already. Just kidding. I mean, I know a lot of that is like for television.
Yeah,
if people
but they don't tell them that he's gonna stick his hand in it though.
If you have like a TV persona, and he's like, oh, well, I gotta make this interesting for the show. Like, I can see that, but also don't ruin food. Like that just makes me hate. I'm not gonna say I hate him. I'm gonna say I hate what he does.
You dislike some of the things that he does.
Yeah,
you don't.
Again, like I haven't watched any of his shows. I don't really know what he's about, but I like don't ruin food. Don't waste stuff. It sucks. Okay, we're gonna go left. This is. I don't think this is the right place. I wonder if I did something to my GPS.
Is this?
Hang on.
This isn't the mall, is it?
Well, I mean it. Hang on. No, I had it set to our apartment. I'm wondering if I did something. What? Oh, what happened? Sorry.
You're good.
It's because we're talking. I got distracted.
I'm sorry.
No, it's okay. No, I had my GPS set to the new apartment, and I must have bumped it or something, and it went to another address.
Oh,
so
dang.
We're 20 minutes away. Let me call Aaron.
I'll resume this.
I'm just blindly following the thing.
It happens. We get turned around sometimes.
Yeah.
But yeah. Housing dinosaurs and Guy Fieri. One thing,
That's good.
in my first podcast, I'm going to do this my last topic, and then I'm going to wrap this up. My first podcast and an unreleased thing that I did with Micah, I'm going to re-record with Micah. I asked about anything that was like paranormal. I've had some weird things happen to me. I'm pretty sure my grandparents' house is haunted. I'm pretty sure I've actually been around a Bigfoot.
Oh.
We're in the middle of the forest, and then like it was suddenly silent.
Oh.
And supposedly that's a sign that a Bigfoot is nearby. I didn't see a Bigfoot. I suspect that I might have been around one. I'm not claiming that I have been. There might be a chance.
Could have been.
However, I don't know if there are any stories anything that's weird that you've experienced you can't explain that might be a little paranormal. It's okay if there's not.
Yeah, no Bigfoot sightings, unfortunately. Although I would love to. I don't know if as much as I would like for it to be true, I don't know if there are any Bigfoots around at this point in time. But they, I don't know, you know that very famous Bigfoot footage that was filmed like in the 60s?
Oh yeah,
it's,
Paddington.
I don't know if it's kind of at a distance in like low brush, but they've sort of like stabilized and enhanced the footage so you get kind of a clearer picture. But it's like the way the hair moves and the way the skin moves, they're like, how could this be a suit? Because it looks like the way the muscles move under the skin, and the skin sort of rolls over the muscles, like...
Yeah.
Like, it would be incredibly hard to fake with a suit, and everybody's like... you've seen, like, gorilla suits in movies from this era. How would somebody make a Bigfoot suit this good? And anyway, yeah, that's the most interesting Bigfoot footage to me, like... It's the one that makes you go,
Yeah.
And we have bones of giant hominids. We have Gigantopithecus, which was like a giant ape that was like 7 or 8 feet tall. So, who knows?
Yep.
So no Bigfoot sightings for me, but I did, and pretty much most of my family have heard this story at this point. I don't know if I probably told it to you at some point. We were driving, I was probably, I want to say like 6 or 7 years old at this time, and we were going to my grandparents on my dad's side who live in Oklahoma. We lived in Texas, so we were on one of the highways, probably Highway 69, going between like the Dallas area and northern Oklahoma, and it was like late dusk going to dark, so like you could just barely see, like everything kind of looked gray, and they're sort of like there are right now. It was like scrub and trees off the side of the road, and we had a Volkswagen van that my dad had fixed up, and that was our family car that we would drive around in, like a VW bus. So I was in the middle seat, like lying down, like with my head propped up on my suitcase, so I could see out the window and I could see the ground and like the scenery outside the window.
Yeah.
Just sort of resting, like napping on and off, but I was awake and I was looking at the trees go by. And of course we're flying by at like 65 miles an hour, and it's like almost dark. And I was just looking into the tree line. I would look at the trees kind of like you could look at clouds and think, oh, that one looks like a bunny, that one looks like a dinosaur. I would see a lot of dinosaurs, so I'd look at trees and go, oh, that tree looks like a big like triceratops. That tree looks like a dragon coming out of the ground, because it was just like the shapes of the trees. So I was really focused, just looking under the trees, and then I saw something, and because of the speed we were going, I saw it for like half a second just fly by under the trees, maybe like 3 or 4 feet high, and it was like this gray shape, and I couldn't tell if it was like a small creature looking thing or if it was like something that was hunkered down, but there was definitely like the body and the head, and its head was very triangular, like wider at the top, and kind of pointed toward the bottom, and it had not like a literal triangle shape.
No, yeah, but like a deer head.
Yeah. But I didn't see any like ears or antlers or anything sticking off of it. It was just like this sort of shape, and then these two huge, perfectly round, pitch black eyes.
Ooh.
Yeah, and just for a second goes by the window, and I was scared out of my mind. Like I didn't point and go, oh, look at that thing, because I just like it's hard to explain. Like when you see something that scares you that much, and your whole body just freezes up. I didn't want to breathe. I didn't want to say anything. I was just like,
yeah,
what the hell was that? In my mind and not out loud.
Yeah.
And of course I was sort of like, my eyes are going to the back of the car, like, is it going to follow us? If I move, maybe it's going to follow us. And of course it was irrational. Like the thing was already 100 feet behind us and it hadn't moved. But so like 20 minutes go by and I'm just sitting there like kind of huddled up, not not moving, not saying anything. And I kept looking. I remember from where I was sitting, I could see the rearview mirror on the passenger side where my mom was sitting. I could see the rearview mirror through the window, and my eyes were just like on that mirror. And every time I saw something move in the mirror, I was like, ah, here it comes. But it didn't come.
Yeah.
That was it. And then, so finally we stopped at a gas station, and it was like brightly lit, and there were people around, and I wasn't really that scared anymore. And then of course I said to my parents, like, I don't think I even said anything then. It was the next day. I said, hey, I saw something by the road yesterday, like a creature, and I kind of described it, and they were like, oh, that's funny, and, I was a little kid, like, I probably thought I dreamed it or whatever, but I don't know, that thing it was always in the back of my mind ever since, like, what was it? Like, could it have been an optical illusion? Could it have been, like, a really big owl, and maybe there was, like, a perspective trick that made it look bigger and or farther away than it was, At the time, like, when I was a kid, I had a book called America's Very Own Monsters. It had illustrations of, like, Bigfoot and various, like, folk creatures, the Jersey Devil. It had
Frogman.
Yeah, and it had Mothman.
Oh,
yeah. He didn't really look like the eyewitness reports of Mothman. It was like a really cool looking pen drawing of it, but it had those big round black eyes. So when I was a kid, I was like, oh, I saw Mothman, and that's what I would tell everybody. That it was like, hey, I saw Mothman, and here's what he looked like. Or maybe I saw Mothman, I don't know.
You never know.
Now it's become clear to me it was, a gray alien. Because, Mothman's probably not real, but...
Aliens.
Yes.
Definitely aliens.
Oh, and I had a dream when I was a kid that just randomly reminded me of it. That, again, like, I wouldn't have thought of anything like this. It was a dream where, like, I got lifted out of my bed. It was one of those dreams that's kind of like a night terror. You can't move, and you're trying to get away, but you can kind of tell you're dreaming, but you can't wake up. And I felt my body rise out of my bed and something slam into my chest. Ooh. And then everything kind of went dark. And then I don't really remember what happened. And then the next part of the dream, I was falling back into my bed, and I was like trying to yell for my parents. But of course, when you're having like a night terror, you can't move and you can't talk when you try to. And I didn't really have night terrors much when I was a kid, but I guess I did this one time. And then later on, I woke up and everything was fine. But I was telling one of my friends from the old dinosaur company I worked for about this dream. So we were having a talk kind of like this, like, oh, what are the weird things that have happened to you? So I told her about Mothman / mystery creature, and then I told her about this dream, and she said, dude, you were abducted by aliens. I was like, oh, that's ridiculous. Oh. The old floating out of your bed thing, like, I don't know.
Maybe. I know, so I used to be into aliens when I was younger. They'd always show pictures of, like, people would have these random puncture marks in, like, a pattern on their stomach or something. It'd be, like, a square or a circle or some geometric shape or, like, some hieroglyph or something like that. And they wouldn't know how it got there. It'd be on their, like, stomach or their back or something.
Yeesh.
It didn't happen all the time, but like some of the most famous documentations of were like these weird puncture wounds and sometimes there was irritation, sometimes there wasn't. They didn't know if they were testing like an allergen on them or something. The idea was they were testing like allergens on humans or whatever. You go to the doctors, they test you for allergies, they put all the different marks on you.
Yeah, no. Yeah, it's like the cattle mutilations where they would have like a perfectly clean incision and like surgically mutilated, not like a wild animal would do, which could be humans.
It could
makes you wonder why people would do that besides just being sadistic. But maybe you gotta have Occam's razor and like, what's more likely, the humans are doing this or that aliens are doing this? And like I think deep down it's like the poster from the X-Files. Like, I want to believe. I thought the world would be a very cool place if there were Bigfoots out there, and if there was really something to all of the like witnesses or experiences of people being abducted and things. But I do believe abductees and people who have seen like these creatures. And what I mean by I believe them is I believe they're recounting what they remember accurately.
Yeah.
And I do think it's interesting that so many people have experiences like being abducted by aliens and the ways in which they're consistent, even though they're inconsistent in other ways. And while we're on the subject of gray aliens, it's important to remember that they're from Earth, they're terrestrial, because something that people tend to like gloss over talking about aliens is the fact that they are humanoids, and that I really don't think you'd get a humanoid from another planet,
Oh, yeah.
The body form that we have only has happened once as far as we know so far on the Earth, even with the great apes. We're the only bipedal animal whose spine is in like a vertical position, and just because it takes a lot of very specific steps to get that body form. So it's like if I said a spaceship came and what's a good example? A spaceship came and a dolphin in a land suit came out of the spaceship. You'd say, well, that's a dolphin. It came from the Earth ocean.
Yeah.
A dolphin's not going to come from Mars or whatever. Like, it's easy for us to be objective, like with other animals, but we see a human body that's like green and a little bit smaller and go, woo, it's from outer space. No, if they're real, like that's not just a humanoid, that's a hominid. Like, they have fingers and toes like ours. All their joints are in the same places. They have, depending on like the eyewitness accounts, they have eyes, mouth, and nose in the same places as ours. Like, they're unquestionably like related to us if they exist, which they don't, but if they do, they're from Earth. And the reason for the narrative for them coming from outer space is so that we won't look for them. That's why all the mind games and all the hocus pocus, woo, we're from the blah 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 nebula. No, they're the best way to survive on this planet is to be invisible to humanity.
Yeah.
Because every other intelligent animal we've gotten our hands on, besides our own species, and even our own species,
Oh, yeah.
They don't want to be treated the way we treat each other, right?
Yep.
So, there you go.
And there's plenty of other human beings that are just completely invisible to everyone. There's the one guy they found in Japan in like the 1980s who thought World War II was still happening, and he claimed that like, the Japanese emperor who was ruling at the time had told him to go out into this forest and hide there and be the backup if fighting ever came to that forest.
Yeah,
and he was just out there, and somebody went and found him, and was this news story at the time. I forget his name or when exactly this happened, but they found this guy who was super young, went out into the woods in World War II, who was supposed to be backup for someone. and he was just out there, and he thought the world hadn't changed that much at all. He didn't know World War II had ended, and
yeah, no, I remember hearing about that guy. So what you're saying is the
the
look at the map again.
oh no, yeah, make
Oh,
sure
yeah,
you
no,
look at the map.
Okay, it wants me to U-turn.
Once you make a U-turn.
Yeah.
Oh no, I'm sorry.
Oh no, it's okay.
Again.
No, it was I couldn't get over because of the other car there. And I don't want to make tight maneuvers in a U-turn.
Fair enough.
Anyway, yeah. So what your point is? That guy was out there being a survivalist, and nobody knew about him until they happened to cross paths.
Yeah. And maybe, I don't know, it's possible that there are other things out there that we just don't know about, because by happenstance we haven't crossed paths, or they're just so deep into whatever huge expanse that we just haven't gone to explore it yet.
Oh yeah. I'm holding out hope for the Tasmanian tiger, supposedly extinct in Australia.
Oh yeah.
Australia is also really, really big, and humans are kind of clustered
On the
away
coastlines.
away from the harsher environments there.
Yeah.
They could still be out
Dude, you know how barely explored the Indian Ocean is?
there. I mean,
And like, that's where all the airplanes go missing. You hear about like the majority of all
yeah.
airplanes that go missing, it's over the Indian Ocean.
yeah.
And like nobody's willing to sink a bunch of money into exploring it. And everybody wants to go to outer space.
Oh yeah, I've heard some conspiracy theories about the expedition to explore the sunken Titanic, like the director of Titanic.
Oh yeah.
I'm drawing a blank on his name right now. Super famous guy.
Yeah.
Yeah, But yeah, it was really cool. They went down and found the wreck and like filmed everything. And before they made Titanic, the movie with Leonardo DiCaprio and
who was that guy who did that?
Yeah, Steven.
Maybe it was Spielberg.
Yeah.
I don't know.
It was him or one of the directors of his ilk. Anyway, I've heard conspiracy theories. There was like the Titanic expedition was a cover, and they were really like exploring something in the deep ocean that they didn't want to make public. The government was.
Maybe they were.
Maybe.
You never know. If it's a cover-up, how would you know?
Yeah.
They wouldn't tell you.
The deepest parts of the ocean are pretty much the only place you can hide a massive conspiracy. That's the problem with most conspiracy theories, is the idea that enough people could actually collaborate and keep something secret for any extended period of time.
Yeah.
Like, people are too self-interested. There's eventually going to be someone that's going to share it with the outside world. But that's why ideas like, Bigfoot, that's not a conspiracy, that's them hiding really well. It's like the joke about the elephant. Have you ever seen an elephant hiding in a tree? No, they sure hide well, don't they?
Yeah.
That's Bigfoot.
Yeah.
The ones that don't require the collaboration of hundreds of people are the ones that are...
They're the most believable.
Yeah.
Like, I know there are some things that have come out, but other things are just too crazy. But yeah, this has been good. This has been a good podcast. I think I'm going to cap this off here. I know we're not to our destination yet. Go. Sorry. But yeah, thank you for sitting down and putting up with me having a weird conversation with you and recording.
Well, yeah, no, this has been really interesting. And thank you for the 3.5 hours you're gonna spend cutting out all my uhs and long pauses and.
Oh no, I'm just gonna take a picture of me and you together and just slap this audio on top of it. That is literally how I did it with Dad.
Yeah. Oh, what did you guys talk about?
We talked. He talked about his photography and working with problematic people in workspaces.
Oh.
And then we talked about he had seen. There's a chance he might have seen a giant down in Athens, and we talked about that, a giant. And we talked about that for a little bit, and we talked a little bit about politics, not that much.
A giant, what? A giant human? Or giant,
Yeah, like humanoid.
A giant Bigfoot, which would be an even bigger than usual Bigfoot. A bigger foot.
A bigger foot, a giant foot.
Yeah.
Quite literally in this case, a giant foot.
Just the foot stomping
Just a
around.
foot.
Sorry, you were trying to tell me, and I just really got hung up on this big giant foot thing.
No, you're good. It's no giant, as in like a giant is like a big human in fantasy tales. Just a giant Bigfoot, giant foot.
Yes. Well, if you.
But yeah, this has been fun. I'm glad we got this chance.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, almost an hour, almost twice as long as the other podcast.
Yes, I'm honored to be on. Thank you, and definitely please make me sound like a better speaker with your editing skills.
I will see if I can do that.
Sweet.
Yeah, thank you.